It's so funny because, I mean, we said this in our marriage vows that we recognized even then that if you want to change someone, it's really something that you want to change about yourself.
Bed. Love.
Bed.
Bed.
Love.
Beyond. Bed, love, beyond. Bed, love, beyond.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Bed Love Beyond, the podcast for the hopeful and the hater in us to discuss sex, love, and whatever's clever with like-minded people like you who are also in limbo with love like us. My name is Martini, and today's episode is sort of a part 2, an unofficial part 2 to our episode 78, which was called I'm Tired, She Said, What's the Issue with Today's Man? And today is episode 85 called What's the Issue with Today's Woman? And it is featuring a special guest today, and it is relationship coach Valerie Greene. How are you doing, Valerie?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I am great. So, I just wanted to thank you for being on the show.
Of course. I'm excited.
Yeah, so we had a guest, an author, Elliott Katz, to talk about what's the issue with today's man, and some of the things that he suggested and came up with was more so that men weren't being dominant enough, and they were what else, that we weren't taking initiative, and also kind of listening to your spouse or your significant other was kind of like the wrong thing to do. Necessarily, like if they said, I want you to do this, I want you to do that, I want you to do that, and they just abide by it, and you're like, hey, I'm a good husband. You see, I'm doing everything that my wife tells me to do, and like that's not necessarily what she would want. She wants you to take initiative instead of her being your pseudo mom.
Totally.
Yeah, so I was I saw some I saw a lot of agreements in there. I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Some things, where we were spatting over, but nothing too serious. So I wanted to be as fair as we could, and since we got things that were wrong with there's issues with men, I mean, I wanted to see what was on the other side of the coin and see what were issues with women. So hopefully you can bring that subject to light today.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, I want to preface everything by saying that I'll be talking about mistakes that a lot of women make, but it's not to say what's wrong with women or what's wrong with men. It's really just like looking at our behavior. And I love what you just said, to see like what we can change about our behavior, not of course changing who we are, right?
Oh, yeah.
But how to express who we are in a way that honors the masculine-feminine polarity, which I'll talk about in a bit. But what I hear you saying really fits into the same paradigm, because I think what women want is a man who's strong and takes leadership, but a lot of times women inadvertently wind up emasculating men without meaning to and subverting his leadership, and in the name of empowerment, which is great. So what I teach women to do is how to be in their feminine in an empowered way, and that's what I look forward to talking to you about, because when you really stop playing the role of his mom and telling him what to do and instead empower him to lead, then he'll take more initiative. So it's kind of two sides of the same coin. Oh,
that's great. That's awesome. Because there was one aspect that I brought up with him, saying that maybe like sometimes I completely understand about leading. That's great. I have no problem with men leading the charge and saying, okay, we're gonna do this and whatever. But sometimes I would see that sometimes men don't want to take that leap, is because let's say they suggest something like, you know what, hon, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, we're gonna do that, and then she goes, you know what, no, we're not gonna do that, and the guy's like, all right, guess we're not gonna do that, and then
right, exactly. Yeah, so that's what I teach people to do, is to really honor, and of course I think that it's all an individual choice. Not all women want to be in their feminine, not all men want to be in their masculine. So that's what I look forward to talking about later, because there's some women out there that want to lead and some men that want to play more of the feminine role, which doesn't mean he's effeminate, it just means that he wants to do what she wants to do and it works. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that.
Right.
And I do think it's really important to listen to a woman's feelings, not necessarily to listen to her direction.
Right.
Unless, I mean, if a woman really wants to go to a specific place or to do a specific thing, then of course, like, it's a collaboration. You each work together to get what you want. But what I'm going to talk about is how women wind up, without meaning to, wind up usurping a man's leadership, and then he just becomes more passive, and that's not really what most women want. Okay. And so what's our contribution to that, and what can we do to change it while still maintaining our power? It's not like we're supposed to be subservient, while still, like, speaking about our desires and our feelings and what we want and what we don't want, but in a way that really empowers him to lead. So that's what I'm going to talk about.
Beautiful. All right, cool. So let's take a step back a little bit. So how did you get into be a relationship coach for women?
I know you wanted me to talk about my personal growth path. Started when I was about 21. When I just graduated from college, I started studying yoga and meditation, and I was very lucky to have a spiritual awakening back then, where I really tapped into what unconditional love was. Ooh. And I really felt like I knew how to connect with my boyfriend at the time in a really loving way, and we had some incredibly awakening experiences together. But I did so by suppressing my emotions. I kind of, I was 20, so what did I know? But I thought that feeling love was like, like you should be feeling love instead of feeling other emotions.
Right.
So I know a lot of, personal growth people might relate to that. And so I would sweep my feelings under the carpet. And I remember with the boyfriend I had in my 20s, we would either wind up fighting or feeling, because I would sweep my feelings under the carpet and pretend like everything was fine until I eventually blew up, and then we would fight, or we would just grow apart because we weren't speaking about what was really going on with us, because I was like, oh no, everything's fine. And so I really wound up growing apart from him because we wound up either fighting or being distant. And then there was one time when he said something like, you hurt my feelings, and I responded by saying something like, I can't cause you to feel anything, it's your thoughts that cause you to feel hurt. And of course that's like the epitome of how to not empathize with somebody. Yeah. So it's kind of like what a lot of people call spiritual bypassing, like bypassing the emotions and not feeling them.
Yeah.
So that really started me on a personal growth journey, and I started coaching in 2005. And I started out with health coaching, actually. But what wound up happening was that a lot of people would approach me with their relationship issues because I was always really good at finding high-quality men at being in actually really good relationships, except I was great at getting into them, but I wasn't great at making them last more than a couple years when I was in my 20s, because I didn't really have these emotionally, the kind of tools that I teach to couples now. I didn't have really the depth of how to process your emotions and how to really speak to each other in a vulnerable way instead of fighting.
Right.
Which was what I learned in my marriage. But people would always approach me with their relationship issues, and I was always really good at giving relationship advice. And my girlfriends at the time would meet men that they wound up, becoming their boyfriends and getting married. And so I started studying with relationship experts around the world, like John Gottman and Sue Johnson. And I really decided that I would specialize in relationships pretty early on, because that's what the clients who sought me did. That's what they wanted. So I also attended the Relationship Coaching Institute, and I studied with a lot of the top relationship experts in the world. And so when I got married, I thought that, everything was going to be wonderful.
Right, yeah.
And it was for a couple of years. But then we just ran into a major unsolvable issue. And so all of these emotions came up for us to process, like hurt and betrayal and resentment and shame and guilt. And because we were so emotionally aware, we were committed to not breaking up out of anger. we were committed to loving each other through all of it. And that's when he and I sought the help of top relationship coaches and therapists and experts. And that's how I really learned how to love myself and him through any emotion that we were feeling. And I really learned how to listen to his needs and desires and values underneath what he was saying, and vice versa. And because in that relationship, I really healed my own blocks to feeling like I could love myself through any emotion. That it's not just that love is, like I thought in my 20s, that you feel love instead of emotions. It's like, hey, I learned how to really unconditionally love myself and him through any emotion. Mm-hmm. And so that when we did decide to separate because we wanted our lives to go in different directions, we still remain really good friends to this day. And our relationship is even, I would say, emotionally closer now than it was when we were even married, just because even though we're not romantic partners and we live on opposite sides of the country, we're really, we're committed to being friends for life, and the commitments that were underneath the marriage of really loving each other and supporting each other are still there. And because in that relationship I really healed my blocks to unconditional love, that's what really allowed me to attract the partner that I have now, that I've had for the past few years. And he's really the one that helped me to realize what it feels like to be a feminine woman with a masculine man and have that deep emotional intimacy and the place that we're going in our lives together and planning our future in a way that is really harmonious, and having this deep love on all levels and shared goals and values and dreams together. And he's really inspired a lot of my teachings. And then I continued to do a lot more training, and then I eventually created a system for both couples and just women in relationship and single women, because I attracted clients in all three of those niches over the years. Mm-hmm. And I've developed programs to help women attract and reignite and sustain lasting love. And my single clients would break through old patterns and meet available men, and my clients that were fighting would be able to connect on a deeper emotional level and reignite their intimacy and passion. So that's why I started really bringing my coaching system to more people, because it's really my passion to help people transform conflict into intimacy and learn how to create lasting love. Okay.
Two questions, because two questions that popped up while you were saying your story. I was wondering why is that when let's say an ex couple can become friends, their like emotional like bond or like is really more positive than it was in the relationship or marriage? Do you think it's because there's no pressure to like be what that title made you become, and now you can just be free with your emotion?
I think so. I mean, that's definitely the way it is with us, mm-hmm. is that the conflict had to do with us actually realizing we wanted different things out of our lives. We wanted different lifestyles. We wanted, different, there was ways that we realized we were incompatible, that we wanted to change each other. And so, of course, that wasn't going to lead to anything positive.
Nope.
But, I mean, once we actually were able to hold space for what I dreamed that I wanted to become and who I wanted my partner to be, and vice versa. Yeah. We could hold space for each other's dreams, and that led to such a deeper level of intimacy, because intimacy is intimacy. Mm-hmm. And I think that when couples really do the work of realizing who each other is and who each other wants to be without our attachment to them being who we want them to be.
Yeah.
I mean, it could go either way. I've worked with couples where they learn how to accept each other on a deep level and reach that level of intimacy and stay together. I'm not saying that, and I hope I'm making sense. It's not, I mean, when you want to change, it's so funny because, I mean, we said this in our marriage vows that we recognized even then, that if you want to change someone, it's really something that you want to change about yourself. And we were really committed to that for the whole time. And so we would, like if I'm judging my partner, using a simple example, for being messy, then there's two possibilities, seeing that it's a projection. Either I judge the part of myself that's messy, and I'm kind of uptight, and I can kind of learn from him and become a little bit more relaxed, and that's a way for me to grow. Or I judge the part of myself that's messy, and like, I'm actually messy too, but it's easier to look at what he's doing than what I'm doing. And there's a way that I could change and become, more organized, and that could actually inspire him. But regardless, it starts with you having a healing relationship with yourself and using the projection of the relationship to work on yourself. And so that, we went into the marriage having that idea, and we grew a lot. That was, I think, the biggest personal growth experience of my life, because during the 2 years that we were in conflict, we really both grew a lot as people. So a lot of times when you want to change your partner, it's actually something that you can grow in yourself. And I love helping people to take a look at that and to use that for personal growth. And so I'm not just saying if you're fighting that, you should break up because then you'll be friends. I think it's a very highly individual thing. And when I work with couples, usually they stay together. And if they wind up breaking up, then what happens is that they can remain friends. And then if they have kids, they can co-parent as amicably. And what happens, though, in like actually learning to accept each other no matter what, is then you don't bring the baggage into the next relationship, because that's what's really going to ruin the next relationship's chance of really developing healthfully if you're still holding on to anger and resentment. So really learning how to reach that level of intimacy and understanding and listening to each other, no matter whether you stay together or not, that's what allows you to not bring that baggage into the next relationship and actually attract somebody who is better for you next time, which is what happened with me.
So is that why you named your ex-husband your wasband? Can you please explain what that means, the significance of that term?
Yeah, I just jokingly call him my wasband instead of my ex. Because when people say my ex, usually it's like a negative term. It's like, oh yeah, my ex. Like people usually say that with like an attitude of I don't know, resentment or at least like whatever negative feelings they're bringing into it. And I don't actually have any negative feelings towards him. So I just call him my husband. We thought that was cute.
No, that is pretty cool. I like that. It kind of like, it takes away the resentment, the disdain, but still keeps the facts of what it is.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. I like that. It is cute. Okay, so you do several talks on conflict resolution, building passion, phenomenal communication. Why has this particular subject, the one of why women are successful women are failing at dating, why is that the most passionate talk you're having right now?
Well, I started out marketing to couples, but I noticed that I would get more women, and I'm not sure, there's many theories why. But anyway, I realized I love working with women, and I love working with couples too. But what I've noticed, that the biggest dynamic that is going on with women that's causing their relationships to not work is just that they're using their masculine energy around men rather than their feminine energy. And I've just noticed that is a theme that kept coming up again and again, which is why I'm so passionate about talking about it. So, of course, that's the first mistake. But it just was really the theme, both with the couples and the single women and the women that I coach that are in relationships. And it's kind of confusing because we haven't really been taught about what masculine and feminine energy are. We typically think of the feminine as being subservient or less powerful, And those are just myths.
Okay.
Actually, I look at the feminine as being, I'm not going to say one side has more power than the other, but the feminine is extremely powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I like to speak about, because I think that in the feminist movement, women gained, in the Western world at least, we can argue that we've gained equal power in many ways, but when you look at it, women are equally powerful in masculine roles. And there's not a lot of examples of women being powerful in a feminine role.
Ooh.
And so I want to explain about what that means. It's interesting, like my partner and I watched Wonder Woman, and we were like, I was looking to write a blog post about how, you know, what moments she was in her masculine, what moments she was in her feminine. But there really weren't any moments in that movie that she was in her feminine, other than when she, at the end, when she realized that human beings are capable of love, and she opened her heart to all of them. That was a feminine moment. Okay. And maybe when she was like oohing over the baby. Other than that, she was in a very masculine role, and there's nothing wrong with women being in a masculine role. I think that's great. Right. You know, I'm in my masculine right now because I'm communicating a concept. Right. You know, and that's great. We haven't really been taught how to be in our feminine in a powerful way, and that's actually what inspires men to step up and lead, you know, which is what most women want. And so if that's what we want, telling him, and this is one of the mistakes I made in my marriage, I would tell my husband that I wanted him to lead, but like I would tell him in a masculine way. So he'd be like, no, I don't want to do that. What are you talking about? Like, right. I'm happy with you making the plans. Like, why do you want me to? Right. So a lot of us make that mistake of saying what we want in a really masculine way.
Okay, so I've been loving everything you've been saying, but you really perked up my ears when you mentioned your blog, your potential blog about Wonder Woman, because I'm a big geek, and like, and I would if you are going to express your opinions on Wonder Woman, I would love to read that blog, because I have my own opinions about that movie as well.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I decided not to write it just because I didn't have a lot of examples of when she's in her feminine. But maybe I could, just bringing in other movies, because have you ever seen the movie Dangerous Beauty?
No, have you seen that one? I haven't even heard of it.
A beautiful film about a true story about, I forget what the character's name was, but a woman who was a poet and a courtesan in Venice in the 1600s. Okay. And so she winds up transforming an entire consciousness of a town, and she does it entirely using her feminine gifts. And I mean, of course, she's a courtesan, and I'm not saying that feminine gifts are just about sexuality, but she used her creativity and her ability to connect with people and to inspire them to open their hearts to each other. And it was just a really beautiful, funny, intelligent, creative film. And that's all about a woman being in her feminine in a really powerful way. As much power as a woman could have in the 1600s.
Okay. All right. And one more thing about the Wonder Woman, and then we can move on. Would you say that when she was when they were at that standstill at that battlefield, when she was trying to be compassionate to everybody that she saw, when she saw the animals and she saw the women like dying and couldn't do anything, but all the men were like, come on, we can't help everybody, we gotta go, but she's like, no, but there's people we can help right here. You don't think that was a feminine?
You're right, that was a feminine moment.
Okay. All right, so
yes. and probably when she was dancing.
Right.
But I mean, they're not examples of very powerful feminine moments. Like, she didn't really create a lot of change that way.
Got you. Okay.
And that's what I want to. That's what I'm passionate about teaching women, is how they can be in their feminine in a way that influences.
Got you.
that actually creates change, because we're taught that in order to create change, we have to be in our masculine. Although, I mean, arguably, the end of the movie, when she really opens her heart and sees the humanity in the mad scientist woman and chooses to save humanity, that's obviously being powerful in your feminine, but it wasn't like taking any action from that place. It was just, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So, maybe I will write the blog. I'll have to see.
All right. Well, you let me know.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So, all right. So we've been keeping the audience at bay for a long time. So please let us know, what are these 3 mistakes successful, powerful women are making that repel love? I want to know.
Yeah. So like I said, the first mistake is about using our masculine energy. And so I really want to explain what that is.
Yes,
because
please.
Masculine and feminine energy is not about gender or sexual orientation.
Okay.
So both men and women have both masculine and feminine energies.
Okay.
And what freedom is, I believe, is to have access to both. You know, that, like, right now I'm in my masculine because I'm communicating a point, but if I go spend time with my partner, then I want to be in my feminine because I want to empower him to be in the masculine. Because in a romantic relationship, what really creates passion is for one partner to choose to be in their masculine and the other partner to choose to be in their feminine. So it's cool because in the last interview you were saying that I forgot the person's name you interviewed, but he was saying that men, the mistake men are making is that they're not taking enough initiative and not leading.
Yes.
And so it can really be made from both sides. When a man steps into a masculine role, it empowers his partner to be more feminine, and when a woman steps into her feminine role, it empowers the man to be more masculine. So it's just that is what actually creates passion and attraction. And so if there's not enough passion or attraction in your relationship, and especially in the beginning of a relationship, it's important to have that polarity, because that's what creates the initial attraction for the man to want to pursue a woman. And so masculine energy is things like strategizing, logistics, making decisions and doing, analyzing, solving problems, and providing and leading.
Okay.
And feminine energy is feeling, receiving, intuiting, just being, following, and collaborating, not just blindly following.
Okay.
And the spiritual practice of surrender and really opening your heart and accepting what is.
Okay.
And loving what is. And so we're not really taught how to be powerful from that place, right? It sounds like it's kind of going with the flow, but that's really not what it is at all. I mean, it can be.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful when it is. Like, you can think of a partner dance where there's a leader and a follower, but the follower is not just blindly following. She really has, I'm saying she, but there could be masculine women and feminine men.
Yes.
But the follower in a partner dance is not being submissive or subservient. She's expressing herself, and she's really expressing the moves that she has. And if a leader is a good leader, he'll want to lead, he'll notice how she's expressing herself, and he'll want to lead in a direction that allows herself to express herself in the most beautiful way, that really allows her to shine. Right? And so that's a good metaphor for when it works well. So if a woman wants to be with a man who's ambitious and who's a good leader and who wants to make the plans, then she needs to cultivate her feminine qualities in order to inspire him to have more of these masculine qualities. Because a masculine man is going to want a feminine energy woman to be the sensual and feeling and intuitive and receptive partner. And that means that as women, we can change hats, you know, if we're in our masculine at work, to letting the man run the relationship.
Yeah.
And that means collaborating, not just blindly following. So it's a great follow-up to the episode from last week, because if a man starts initiating and then the woman says, no, I don't want to do that, I want to do this instead, then he's just going to want to make her happy, so he'll defer to her.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But it sort of disempowers that polarity, and then they might feel like there's not that much passion.
Now with that, does there have to be like a balance? Because you said with your current relationship, when you're with him, you're the more the feminine, he's the more the masculine. Like, does it have to be in that, not necessarily in that order, but does it have to be in that like cyclical balance? Like, does let's say one person is the masculine, does the other person have to be the feminine? Can you guys both act as masculine or both act as feminine? It has to be that way?
Well, sure. I mean, what I empower people to do when they're in relationship is that they can negotiate. Okay. Like, for example, with our social plans, he likes me to suggest things that I think would be fun to do. And, that's more of if you look at the masculine feminine energy, the masculine energy makes the plans and the feminine energy collaborates and goes along, but also shares her desires. Right. But so he wants me to find events that we want to go to and suggest them. And so that's, maybe, and then he takes it and he makes a whole, he decides like what subway route we're going to take. But I know New York City better than he does because he's only lived here a few years. So sometimes I say, we should go this way. And he's like, okay. But then, so it's a collaboration, and that's really what I empower people to do. But especially if we're talking about in the beginning of a relationship, it's really important for a woman to be in her feminine if she wants to attract a man who does want to pursue her and to make the plans and to take the lead. Because that polarity is established in the beginning. And then, of course, once you're in a relationship, you can negotiate about which areas he wants you to be more masculine and which areas he wants you to be more feminine, and vice versa. If you want him to be more feminine in some ways, like, I think my man has a really good balance because he's very empathic. Okay. And he's very good at sharing his feelings. A lot of guys don't like sharing their feelings, but I can just say, hey, how are you feeling? And he'll share his feelings. And so that's a way that he's more feminine. And I love that. I think most women would.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, he's still really good at leading and planning dates and really holding that masculine polarity and taking initiative with things. So I'm not saying that we need to be in our that women need to be in their feminine all the time and men need to be in their masculine all the time. That's kind of a rigid role. But what I'm saying is, if you're going on dates and you realize that you're not getting asked out again a lot, or if you're more inclined to want to call him and suggest making the plans, or drive to him, or do things for him, then that's in the masculine polarity. And just notice the effect that it has on him, because a lot of times that'll make a guy lose interest because he wants to be the one leading. Okay.
So what advice do you have for some women who can't help themselves but just stuck in like the masculine mindset, I guess? What shift do they need to do to make more men attracted to them and sustain love?
So the biggest shift, and this is actually one of my favorite things of teaching, is so I love the way Dr. Pat Allen talks about this. She wrote a whole book called Getting to I Do, and she breaks it down really simply, the masculine and the feminine. And so the masculine person says, I think, I want, how do you feel about this? And the feminine person says, I feel, I desire, I don't want, what do you think about that? Right? So the masculine person shares their thoughts and the direction, and the feminine person shares their feelings and their desires, which is different than a want. Like, our desire is, there's many different ways of meeting a desire. Okay. And our boundaries. It's really important for us to have strong boundaries. That's a big part of where our power is. But so let's say I have a good example that's simple. One of my clients, she's a woman who she has a lot of digestive issues. Okay. And so she has celiac, so she has to eat at a restaurant that's completely gluten-free.
Okay.
And she can't digest food well after 8 p.m. And so what she would do is she would, like, when she went on dates with guys, she would plan the date because that would make her feel really comfortable.
Right.
And then she would know she could go to the right restaurant. But then she would go on a lot of dates where the guys wouldn't be that into her because she was leading and they wanted to lead. And so what I empowered her to do is to share her feelings, desires, and boundaries instead.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll kind of break down what that is. So our feelings, first of all, it's important to really share our positive feelings first, and then our feelings, like maybe we're scared or apprehensive or whatever our, less positive feelings are.
Yeah.
But feelings are actually what inspires a masculine person, because most masculine people, I'm going to say men and women, but I mean some women are more masculine, that's okay.
Sure.
Most masculine people aren't really used to feeling our feelings.
Mm-hmm.
When guys hang out, they don't really talk about their feelings, and when we're at work, we don't really talk about our feelings. And so when do men get exposed to feelings? And so when a woman really shares her feelings with a man in a way that doesn't make him wrong, because that's the second mistake, is that we tell a guy what we feel, but in a way that makes him wrong, because that'll actually push him away. But if we share our feelings in an inspiring way, where it's just, I like to say, intimacy is into me see.
Okay.
And sharing our feelings and desires in a way that's into me see.
Yeah.
Then that's actually inspiring for a man, because he wants to honor a woman's feelings and meet her desires. If he can, then he feels really successful about providing that, and then they're both happy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I empowered her to say, when another guy asked her out, she said, I would love to go out with you. That would feel really good. So you always talk about your positive feelings first, and then to share her feelings and desires, to say, I'm a little apprehensive because I have celiac. Mm-hmm. And she shared that I need to eat at a restaurant that's totally gluten-free, and I don't digest food well after 8, so that's her boundary. So what I really need is to eat at a restaurant that's totally gluten-free before 8, and if you found one and you planned a date like that, that would feel really taken care of. And are you willing to do that to meet my requirements? And he said, sure. So that inspires him to lead, because she gave him her feelings, desires, and boundaries. Mm-hmm. And she shared her positive feelings and what it would provide for her. That she would feel really taken care of if he went out, did a little bit more planning than usual, because she has these requirements. Right. And so when she started speaking to men like that, it empowered him to lead. And then she went on a date with this guy, and I don't think it was that guy specifically, but pretty soon after, she met a guy that was the right guy for her, and now they're in a serious relationship.
Nice. All right. That's awesome.
That's a really simple example, but it's really about sharing your feelings, your desires, and your boundaries. Cool.
All right. So you did mention the second mistake, but can you please elaborate on it?
So it's really the mindset shift of collaboration instead of control. Okay. Is kind of, so the mistake number 2 is sharing your feelings, and we can check in with our intention. Like if we're sharing our feelings in order to control him or to make him wrong. Because that's obviously not going to work either. Nobody likes to be made wrong. But a lot of times we wind up sharing our feelings in a way that's making the other person wrong, rather than to just have into me see. Right. So I'll use another simple example, because they're always easier to teach by. Yes. So let's say I'm angry with my partner because he didn't do his chores. Okay. So I can say, I'm feeling angry at you because you didn't do your chores. That's sharing your feelings.
Yes, it is.
Wrong, right? Or I could take a deep breath, and I could really feel my feelings and look at what having him do his chores provides for me, and what my desire really is. My desire isn't to have him do his chores. That's the strategy to having a clean home. But have I really explained to him what that provides for me and how that makes me feel when the home is clean? And, have I really communicated that in an inspiring way? So that's the intimacy part.
Right.
So if I say, I'm just feeling tense because the home is messy.
Yeah.
And I don't like that because when the home is messy, I'm like distracted by looking at all these things around me, and I feel stressed out, and I want to feel more relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
And, what do you think we should do about that? Because I know that what we have been doing hasn't been working. And
right.
So then I'm like not making him wrong. He knows he hasn't done his chores.
Yeah, of
you
course.
don't have to point that out to him.
Yeah.
So that's like what most men think is nagging, because we really make it about him, not doing what he's supposed to do. But
right.
in that case, I'm actually sharing the impact that it's having on me, and what's going on for me in the moment, and what my desire is. And I could share my boundary. I could say, I'm not willing to keep going with the house messy. We have to do something to change this. Like, what can we do? And so that's still empowering him to come up with a solution. Now, let's say he comes up with a solution that I don't like. I can still say I feel uncomfortable with that.
Mm-hmm.
And why you feel uncomfortable with that. Like, let's say he says, oh, I'll get to it, I'll do it. And I could just be like, well, okay, like, I just, then I could share my boundary. Like, I'm willing to trust you for another week, but I'm not willing to go longer than another week. If it goes like the same way for another week, can we reevaluate and find another solution? So that's sharing our boundaries. And the paradigm shift is really collaboration, because we also have to take a look at what him not doing the chores provides for him.
Right.
So everything we're doing provides something for us.
Mm-hmm.
There's like an end goal that we're looking for. So I really have to get into his world and realize what's the end goal that he's looking for. Like, let's say he is working really hard on a work project or something, and he just doesn't have time, then we need to renegotiate the responsibilities. And, then we can actually look at, well, do we have enough money to hire a cleaning person? Or, can he give me something else? Like, can he give me a massage and then I'll want to do all the cleaning? Or,
right.
Something like that. But, when we actually come from that attitude of like, what am I really wanting and what is he really wanting? And how can we get both?
Mm-hmm.
Then you're having the right attitude to share your feelings, because there's a difference between sharing my feelings in order to get him to change versus sharing my feelings in order to just have him see into me and then be curious about what's going on for him and what he's really wanting.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So with all those tactics, I feel that maybe some women might not want to, I guess, beat around the bush or like, walk on eggshells. Like, are you like saying that maybe that women need to be submissive and not ask for what they want directly, or?
No, definitely not. There's nothing wrong with asking for what we want directly, but it is more of a self-awareness practice of realizing that what we want is a clean home.
Right.
And what we, and just recognizing human nature, that nobody likes to be told what to do.
Right.
And recognizing that if you're telling him what to do, then you're playing the role of his mom. And a lot of women complain that they are playing the role of the mom in the relationship, but the other side of the equation is that that's the role that they're taking on. Mm-hmm. So we don't have to take on that role. Just recognize that if you're telling him what to do, then he's going to feel mothered, and then he's going to react like a rebellious teenager, because that's just human nature when people feel controlled.
That's true too.
So it's not that we can't ask for what we want directly, but just recognizing that men are providers, at least masculine men. They want to provide things. So if you haven't communicated to him what you want him to do provides, then there's not a lot of motivation to do it. Because women, and this is just a generalization,
yes,
but because women are, we have a smaller corpus callosum, so we have more communication between the left and right hemispheres of our brain.
Okay.
This is actually part of the third mistake, because it's just not recognizing the differences between most men and most women. And so what that means is that we're actually easier multitaskers in general, because we have access to both our logical and intuitive sides, and men's brains are just more single focused. And there's various theories for why that is. But what that means in terms of doing things is that men are usually focused on what they're trying to accomplish. So whatever that is, if he has a work project, if he's watching something on TV, if you interrupt him and he seems like he doesn't care, it's not that he doesn't care. It just takes a while for him to switch roles from watching to listening.
Yeah.
And women just have an easier time. But bringing that back to the asking for what we want,
yes,
it's really important for us to share what it provides for us, not just what we want him to do. So, for example, if we want him to make the bed, it's just that he might not even notice it needs to be made because he's focusing on something else. Or it's more efficient not to make the bed,
Right.
That's just like a masculine way of thinking.
I'm just going to go back in it 12 hours later.
Exactly. Like, I don't always make my bed, to be honest. But, and, I'm a woman, so it's like, whatever, we have both masculine and feminine within us, and everyone's an individual, right?
Yeah.
But men don't necessarily do things just to do them. They do things to provide something.
Okay.
A lot of times women do things just to do them because we notice everything that needs to be done around the house, because we have that diffused awareness.
Okay.
So we're a lot more impacted by the fact that the bed isn't made or the bathroom is messy or whatever, where if men are focused on something else, they don't notice it. So there's not like it's wrong to ask him to make the bed if he agreed to do it. That's fine. But if you told him what it provides for you, because the motivation to do it comes from what it provides for you, not just it getting done.
Right.
If that makes sense.
No.
He wants to provide you with good feelings. And so if you really share, like, when the bed isn't made, I just feel stressed or tensed because I have to look at it and it looks messy, and that makes me feel uncomfortable. And when it's made, I feel relaxed and taken care of and supported because I'm doing all the other things, and I look at the home and it's beautiful, and that makes me feel good. Like, that's more motivation to do it for him. So it's just kind of working with the way that men think.
No, that's great, because it just, what you just said, it just reminds me. Now, I've never seen this movie, but I always see this clip come up when it's talking about relationships and stuff, where it's the breakup with Jennifer Aniston and Vince Vaughn. And
I haven't seen that.
Yeah,
I should.
there's this part where he's playing video games, and she goes to the kitchen, and she's like, "Oh, like the dishes aren't done. I thought you said you were gonna do the dishes." And he's like, "All right. Like, I'll do the dishes later." And she's like, "But I wanted you to do them before I got here." And he slams down his controller, and he's like, "Fine, I'll do the damn dishes." And she's like, "No. It's like, not like that." And he's like, "What do you mean not like what?" And she goes, I don't want you to do, like, I don't want you to do the dishes. I want you to want to do the dishes." And he's like, "Why would I want to do dishes?"
Right, exactly.
So it just goes into what you were saying.
And nobody wants to do dishes, but that's the point, is that what she wanted was for him to see what it provides for her. That when he does the dishes before she gets home, what that provides for her is a feeling of, wow, he cares enough about me to make the home look beautiful for me, so that when I come home, I walk into a beautiful home, and then I feel more relaxed and taken care of. And like, she wanted him to just intuit that, but if she would have communicated that to him in that way, then maybe he would have done it.
Yeah. Okay. So I like those little teases that you drop with the mistakes. So I know you did the number 3 a little bit before,
well,
but
all sort of like
bring it back.
To each other, you know what I mean?
No, it's great. So what is the third mistake that successful women do that they fell in love with?
So the third mistake is just not understanding the inherent differences between most men and most women. So they misunderstand men's motivation for things.
Okay.
So another example of this is how men relate to feelings. And because men's brains are more compartmentalized, I mean, men and women are both equally intelligent, but it's just most men have a difficult time feeling their emotions and talking about them and thinking logically all at the same time when it's something important.
Okay.
So usually if it's like something really important, like how are you going to get out of a financial problem, or, a problem comes up with your kids, or something really big problem comes up at work, they need space to process.
Mm-hmm.
They can't just speak about it right away without it turning into an argument. Or when he's feeling emotional, a lot of times men don't want to speak about it because if they say what's on their mind, it's going to turn into an argument.
Right.
They need time to process it.
Yes.
And so men pull away when they're feeling a lot, but women see men pulling away and think he doesn't care about me. If he really cared, he would stay and talk about this.
Right.
But actually he's pulling away because he does care, and he's processing his thoughts and feelings so that he can share them when he's ready.
Mm-hmm.
But so we misunderstand him, and then we get mad at him for how he's being, and then he feels misunderstood and disrespected because we don't notice the positive intention behind why he's doing what he's doing. And so then he pulls away more, and it's this vicious cycle. And then, of course, a lot of women in that case will get more, angry, and
right.
It's a downward spiral. And so that's why it's so important for us to know how to see the positive intention underneath why he's doing what he's doing. And that's a big part of what my coaching system teaches, is and that's why I'm so good at working with couples, is because I have a lot of, I don't know if it was because my dad was an engineer, but I just really empathize with men. And I kind of think where they're coming from.
That's awesome. Yes, we need more like you, please. We need more like you.
Exactly. My dad was an aerospace engineer, and my mom was an artist.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I have kind of like equal left and right brains potentials, and it's a big reason why I'm able to like really empathize with people's emotions and also think logically and kind of get into because usually in a relationship there's like a logical person and an emotional person, and so it's about teaching them how to learn from each other and relate to each other.
Right. Yeah.
So that's one of the things that my program teaches, is the key differences between men and women and how to harmonize them. And one really key difference is our core vulnerabilities. So women tend to be scared that he doesn't love us. That's just, we're scared of being abandoned. We're scared of, not being lovable. And it's not like men are not scared of that. Everyone's scared of that. But men tend to be more scared of failing, of not being able to do the right things to make her happy. So, like, for example, there's a study that was done about why men and women fear homelessness. And it's really interesting. This was talked about in the book by Patricia Love and Stephen Stonzy, called How to Improve Your Marriage Without Talking About It. And it's just like understanding men and women's core vulnerabilities and how to prevent from hurting each other.
Okay.
And giving each other empathy. And so she listed this study in that book, and it was that men fear homelessness most because they would be seen as a failure and they would feel ashamed of failing. And women fear homelessness most because they would be abandoned by everyone that loves them.
Oh,
and
wow.
just in general, that's what the study showed.
Yeah.
And so that just really points out our vulnerabilities. And so that's why the most important skill to learn, which I started to share before, is how to express our feelings in a way that doesn't make him wrong.
Yes.
Because when we make him wrong, then it triggers his core vulnerability that he's failing, and then he can't hear what it is that you want because his body kind of tenses up around like, oh, I'm failing, and then he actually, it's harder for him to hear what you want underneath it. So that's why it's just important for us to express in a way that invites him into that intimacy, like I was talking about before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I love that that little quirky term. Like it's very good. The into me see. Like no,
it's a nice shortcut.
No, but it makes complete sense though. I really like that. So what is the most important skill that women need to have to inspire deeper love and intimacy?
So it's basically how to let him into the depth of your emotions in a way that doesn't make him wrong.
Yeah.
But invites him deeper into your feminine openness, because that's what invites him to be able to access his emotions. So when we really share our feelings in an inspiring way, then that's what brings a man into his heart.
Okay.
And then he feels like, because you're sharing your emotions in a way that's not making yourself wrong or him wrong, then he finally feels safe to let his guard down and just be himself. And that's the prerequisite for him to be able to consider what he's feeling for you. So when you share your feelings in an inspiring way instead of in a critical way, then you can be cherished for who you are instead of what you're doing. And that's what most women really want, is to be adored for who we are.
Right.
So if you're single, if you share your feelings in an inspiring way, then he sees that you're secure in yourself, and if he's the right man for you, then he'll want to step up his game so that another man doesn't claim you first, right?
Yes.
And if you're in a committed relationship, then sharing your feelings in an inspiring way and letting him give to you and appreciating him for what he does give for you, because it's so easy to take for granted what we do for each other in a committed relationship. So it's even more important that we really share appreciation for what our partner is providing for us, even if it seems like it's something he's supposed to do. Because that really fuels his passion and makes him feel successful, so that he'll want to do even more. And, then he'll adore and cherish you, and then you'll be able to relax, knowing that you're desired and loved and wanted and taken care of.
Sweet. Okay. No, this is all great stuff.
It's hard for a lot of us to do because negative emotions are triggered so fast, right? We just react. So
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's not about walking on eggshells. It's not about not sharing what's up for you. It's just really learning how to share our feelings and desires and boundaries in an inspiring way. And so I do have a free e-guide that teaches what I call the Manifest Lasting Love process. And it's a 5-step process for how to share your feelings in an inspiring way. And it's written out in this really simple 20-page e-guide.
Right.
And I have that for free if people want the link to that.
Oh, yeah. Where can they find that?
That's on my website, which is coachvaleriegreene.com/e-guide. So that's CoachValerie there's an E at the end, .com, and that's /e-guide, E-G-U-I-D-E. And so I share the 5-step process for how to share your feelings in a way that inspires him to meet your deepest needs and desires. And I have examples, and I have a little template so that anytime you're wanting something from your partner or from a man, that you could use this in order to, instead of just walking on eggshells or sweeping your feelings under the carpet, because that doesn't work either, you really can say what's on your mind, but in a way that is actually saying what's in your heart. Not just sharing what's on your mind.
Right. No. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, wow. This has all been just great advice. I mean, granted, I'm not necessarily the demographic that this is for, but
but you're a guy. I mean, what do you think about it?
No, it's great. I really love the part where you're talking about how that the woman really needs to hear what's going on the man's side, so she can really take charge in her feelings and say, like, okay, wait, this isn't all about me. We can collaborate and get through this together, as opposed to just, I'm right and you're wrong. It's like it's not that. Just like, okay, where's he coming from? Let me tap into his head of his and see what's going on there. And then when they find out, you're like, oh, okay, now I see why you're so apprehensive or stuff like that. Especially about the homelessness thing, and that was so good. Like that makes complete sense.
Yeah, and the other side of the equation is to not ask a guy about his feelings, because most men aren't as comfortable talking about their feelings, but you can ask him what he thinks and what he wants and what he doesn't want. And, you know, if he seems controlling and wants to tell you to do something that you don't want to do, then ask him, well, if I did that, what would it provide for you? You know, and get deeper, because that's how you can really get into his world and then say, oh, that'll provide this for you, and then maybe you'll want to do it, or maybe you won't. Then you'll say, you know, I'm not comfortable doing that. I don't feel comfortable doing that. But what else could provide that same thing for you?
Right.
You know, so it's getting into his world is really the essence of collaboration, because that's what I stand for when I work with couples or women in relationship. Because I'm really good at working with just the woman and teaching her these skills and then inspiring her to create win-win solutions. That there's always a win-win solution, unless it's a case of one person wanting a child and the other doesn't, or one person wants monogamy and the other doesn't.
Right.
Like there's some instances in which case there's not a win-win, but I would say in almost every case there is, if you go deep enough.
Right. All right. So let's say if a woman is in that exact position and needs that help, how would one reach you? How would she reach you?
So my website is, like I said, CoachValerieGreene.com, and you could also email me at Valerie@CoachValerieGreene.com. So that's pretty easy. And I do offer a free 90-minute relationship breakthrough session.
Ooh.
And that's for people that are considering hiring a coach, but there's no obligation to hire me after the call. The reason that it's 90 minutes for free is that it's really important for me to get inside someone else's world and to really find out their situation and to come up with a detailed plan of what I would suggest that would help the person, whether we wind up working together or not. So I found, because I like to go really deep with people, so I found that it takes 90 minutes, and I do offer that for free because by the time we reach the end of the 90 minutes, we've built a lot of rapport, and then we can decide together whether we want to work together or not and what the plan would be. So you can also find out about that on my website. That
is great. That is awesome. Thank you for being on the show, Valerie. I'm telling you, this is just amazing advice, and I'm sure I'm 1,000% positive that people will be inspired by what you said, and it was just great stuff.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this conversation. Like I said, I could speak about this stuff for hours. So,
No.
You've been really great at listening. So thanks.
No, not a problem. Like it was really good. I liked all of it, and I'm sure whenever my co-host Jennifer gets to this, I'm sure she'll find some good stuff about this too. But it was really good. I thank you for being on the show. Thank you for having me. It's been fun. Yeah, not a problem. All right, that was Valerie Greene, relationship coach. That was a pretty awesome damn interview. Like I said before, like this is some really prime stuff. I really like it. And again, if you want to consult with her, just go back a couple minutes on the podcast and find out what her information was, and please consult her, because I mean, you hear, she knows her stuff. Okay, so that is the end of the show. Thank you for listening to us on Podbean, iTunes, Pocket Cast, Stitcher, and Google Play Music. Please rate, review, like, and subscribe to us on any of the devices that you listen to. So if there's any 5 stars, please rate us 5 stars, likes, thumbs up, all that good stuff, all right? And if you want to contact us, yes. What do you think? Do you think Valerie was right in her assessment with women, or you think she's all wrong? She's like, girl, she don't know what she's talking about, or whatever. Like, what do you think? You can hit us up at bedlovebeyond@gmail.com, or you can go to our website. We'll have tons of information, and we'll also have Valerie's information as well, her website and her email. You can go to that. The website is www.bedlovebeyond.com. And you can either call us or text us and leave a message at 201-862-8-BED. That is 201-862-8233. Again, you can text us or leave us a message. We'll definitely, and come on, you want us to answer your questions? Do you have a topic that you want to ask us? Please let us know. Again, you can either email us at bedlovebeyond@gmail.com or text us again at 201-862-8-BED. That is 201-862-8233. You can hit us up on Facebook, www.facebook.com/bedlovebeyond. You can talk to our fans, our cool fans that love us, all 1,000 of you, 1,000 plus. Thank you for riding with us strong since day one. And you can also follow us on social media at bedlovebeyond on Instagram, Twitter, Periscope, and YouTube. Yes, that is right, YouTube. Again, we told you this before, but all of our episodes, including this one, is on YouTube now. So you can leave us a comment. Please, no dirty ones. We know how YouTube is, okay? The YouTube comments are the most vile thing in history. Okay, but just leave us something good, informative, constructive criticism. We can handle that. Nasty stuff, calm down, leave that at home. But just give us constructive criticism. What do you think about the show? Do you think we should need to change anything, or if you want to talk about the subjects? Because we know that you have opinions. And that's all we are. We just have opinions. We're not experts. We told you from day one that Jennifer and I are not experts. We're just going through the same journey in life of you, just as you, and we just got questions that we just answer to each other, and then that's it. Remember, our answers are not definitive. We just have the answers that we have, and we know that you got answers and opinions. So what's really good? We want to know. All right. Again, you can hit us up on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Periscope at bedlovebeyond. All right. My name is Martini, and that is the end of the show. All right. See you guys later. Peace.